I'm John E. Davis, National Director of Civil Defense. The President of the United States places high priority on involving many more Americans in voluntary action to solve public problems. At a conference of state governors, he emphasized the role of people banding together to do those things which must be done. Voluntary action by individuals and groups is deeply rooted in the American character and tradition. Voluntary action is essential to civil preparedness. Civil defense in the United States is not a special group of people standing by to save the day in case of a major disaster. Rather, it is coordinated planning and action by government, industry, volunteer groups, and individuals designed to protect people from major peacetime hazards and disasters, as well as attack. This film presents the National Defense Transportation Association as an organization voluntarily helping government in a way described by President Nixon as matching the magnitude of our task.
Say, Dad, can I borrow these cufflinks? I need them for this shirt.
Sure, go ahead.
They've got some letters on them. This says NDTA. What's that? Some kind of fraternity?
Well, I've heard of the AA and the AAA.
Maybe it means never do that again.
It stands for National Defense Transportation Association.
Oh. It's the National Defense Transportation Association.
Oh, yeah, that's what you go to those meetings for. Something to do with your trucking company.
That's right. Since I'm in the trucking industry, I'm also a member of the local chapter of the NDTA.
Why is it called the National Defense Transportation Association?
Well, it all started after World War II. You see, during the war, thousands of transportation men served in the military in transportation jobs. Now, they were real proud of the job they and the professional military men did, and also the chance to serve their country in the way they knew best. So they organized the NDTA as a means of continuing this relationship and this service to their government.
Were you in the Red Ball Express, Pop? Is that how you got the medal?
You betcha, Charlie.
Gee.
Dad, what does your organization do?
Well, the NDTA is an association of transportation people in industry and government at all levels who are interested in developing a strong transportation system to meet our peacetime needs and also to respond to natural and man-made disasters. We in our chapter have an agreement to work with the local civil defense and the Red Cross whenever they need our help. You remember that time a few years ago when we had a big hurricane down in the southern part of the state? Well, I was a mighty busy man that night. Oh. Who's this? Yeah, this is Fisher. Oh, it's you, Dave. What's the matter? What? The hurricane has changed course, huh? Sure. Just let me make a few calls and I'll get right back to you. So long.
Harry, what was that all about? Did I hear you say hurricane? Is there one coming?
There's a big hurricane brewing in the south. It's already hit the state line, but it's turning west now, so we're not going to get it here. But I got to round up a bunch of equipment from the NDDA members and get it rolling down to Central City with supplies. They need all the help they can get. There's a terrible mess down there. Hello, Paul. This is Harry Fisher. I'm sorry to wake you up in the middle of the night, but we got an emergency. Yeah, that's right. We're putting the emergency transportation plan into effect. Civil Defense just called me. That hurricane that was brewing in the south changed direction, and it's hit Central City. Yeah, you call the heavy equipment, trucks, and warehouse deputies, and I'll alert the bus, rail, air, and radio men. Meet me down at the operations office in half an hour. Bye. We need at least 2 refrigerated jobs. What have you got available? Good. Good. That's fine. Listen, is there any problem with drivers? No? Okay, fine. They'll be waiting for your equipment there at the warehouse. Call us as soon as you get them loaded and you're ready to roll. And Bill Semple should have some delivery instructions by that time. And listen, don't forget to have every vehicle fly the Civil Defense identity flag. Okay? Bill, Jablonski says he can provide at least 6 van units over at the Marvin Company warehouse. Call the transportation officer at the Emergency Operations Center, get delivery instructions for him, and then you call Jablonski.
Harry, this is the list of medical supplies that Red Cross says available in town and the positions where we can pick them up.
Right.
Maybe if you called John, we could expedite the thing a little.
Let's get this thing loaded.
Hey, Harry, I've got an urgent message from State Patrol. I'll put it on a loudspeaker. State Patrol, this is NDTA. Please say again your last transmission, over.
This is Troop K, State Patrol. We've got a highly dangerous situation here. I repeat, a highly dangerous situation. Water has overflowed its banks and the water is rising fast in the New Brighton area. Large number of people stranded without transportation. Got to get them out of here soon. We need any kind of transportation we can get. Anything with wheels that can get here while we can still use the interstate highway. Over.
Roger, State Patrol. This is NDTA. Your message is received and understood.
Sam, call the cab companies and tell them we need their taxis to go to New Brighton to save some lives. Tell them how bad and how urgent it is.
Okay, Mark.
And call Pete and tell him the buses and cabs will be rolling. They might need gas. Tell them not to worry about it. Just keep a record and make sure they're not delayed.
Al, I think we ought to notify the police to expect a convoy of taxis and buses headed south. Ask them for an escort and where they want the taxis and buses to rendezvous.
Sure, Harry.
And keep in contact with them until we get the convoy underway.
I'm part of taxi cab. Police sent out here to evacuate people. Where do I go from here?
Turn right here, get down for about 2 more miles. There's one more family left in there and they should be waiting for you. Don't waste any time on the road. Not going to be usable too much longer.
NETA. Yeah? Well, thanks a lot, Dave. Thanks for calling. Bye-bye. That was Dave Marston. Civil Defense here just got the word that our buses and taxis got everyone out safely. We didn't lose a soul. It's all over, Harry.
Thank God for that. Well, boys, that's it. I guess we can go home now. And that was the first good night's sleep I've had in a long time.
Wow, what a great thing to do. All those people, and you helped save them. That's super.
Are there NDTA chapters in other parts of the country doing things like this?
Oh, there are local chapters of NDTA all over the country, from coast to coast, in Panama, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Alaska, and various other overseas areas. And practically all of them have agreements with Civil Defense to help their communities and outlying areas whenever disasters strike.
What other disasters have the NDTA people helped in?
Well, the disaster support work of the NDTA began in 1953, when the Montana chapter did outstanding work in assisting the Red Cross in the Missouri River flood. There have been other instances down through the years. In 1961, Hurricane Carla struck the Gulf Coast in Texas. The Houston chapter responded immediately. Thousands of people were moved to shelters and transferred from smaller shelters to larger buildings right during the height of the storm. NDTA member companies supplied transportation to provide food, medicine, and bedding to emergency shelters.
What about the big earthquake in Alaska, Dad? When did that happen?
In 1965.
Oh, that's right. Did NDTA help out in that?
It sure did. The Alaska earthquake shattered the seaport town of Valdez, several hundred miles south of Fairbanks. A gigantic tidal wave resulting from the earthquake took many lives and devastated buildings. Fairbanks chapter of NDTA met every civil defense request for aid promptly and efficiently. In so doing, it set an example for all NDTA chapters. The military, through civil defense, requested aid in evacuating women and children to Fairbanks. 3 buses and a van did the job. The Alaskan Railroad moved emergency supplies by rail and by truck. The Teamsters Union furnished volunteer drivers to take pickup trucks and flatbeds and a forklift to Valdez. Thousands of feet of fire hose and hundreds of gallons of foam were transported to that stricken community. The local taxi cab companies performed numerous errands and moved small shipments for the local civil defense. All told, NDTA supplied equipment and drivers for almost 7,000 truck and rail miles. NDTA distinguished itself again in the Hurricane Camille emergency. Mayor Don Geis of Biloxi, Mississippi, gave high praise to the work of the association.
We had very little warning, really, of this type of disaster. But with the warning that we had, there are many peoples who deserve a great deal of credit for the assistance that they were able to give us before the storm got here as a precautionary measure, and then to help as best they could during the period of time that we were drastically trying to save lives and protect properties. Of those people who did offer a great deal of service, I should say would include the NDTA, including the military at Keesler Air Force Base, the Naval Construction Battalion at Gulfport, and the trucking associations of the states of Mississippi and Alabama, in Louisiana, and many other areas. At the time of the last-minute warnings that we might have such a tragic thing best upon us here along the coast, our local trucking association members, also part of the NDTA, did what they could along with the National Guard to help to evacuate many of our citizens from low-lying areas. We were able to save some equipment and some furnishings, but little did we know that we would have the high waters and the tremendous winds that came after that, and many of these goods that were saved were lost. But thank goodness that through the efforts of many of these truckers and through the National Guardsmen and the civil defense officials, there were many, many citizens and lives saved.
Dad, you've been telling us about how the NDTA uses trucks and taxis and trains, but what about airplanes? Do they ever use planes like big jetliners? I mean, I'd think they'd be great for the job.
Well, we can call on all forms of transportation. Most of the U.S.-owned steamship companies are members of the association. Same with the airlines. They do their part, too. In 1956, when a bad hurricane hit the small island of Eleuthera in the Caribbean, Mercy flights were flown down there with emergency supplies. And then another time, NDTA air freighted supplies overseas to Yugoslavia when they had a bad earthquake disaster there.
I like Air Force planes, especially those super-duper fighters.
You mean supersonic fighters, Charlie.
Gee, they're great. Can I be in transportation when I grow up?
You sure can, Charlie. You can be anything you want if you try hard enough.
Boy, I'm going to be a jet jockey.
Whatever your job is in transportation, aviation, merchant marine, railroading, or trucking, you can be sure that you will be providing a vital service to the nation.